Well, Sree, I think we'll start with you and open your mic up to get you very specifically to respond to this prompt in terms of how have you recreated accountability and trust? Very specifically, I believe through the events that you've hosted through Digimentors over the last 12 months.
Sure. Thank you so much, Hanson, for having me here. I'm delighted to be with you and your colleagues and your fans and friends around the world. What a great gathering of folks. Thank you very much for having me. I am going to answer your question by reflecting a little bit on what has been happening uh, in the last year and really in all our lives, what has happened. I think I've been honored to know both Hanson and the COM lead work for more than a decade now, and I got to see it firsthand, as you'll see in just a second. And one of the things that we have understood is the value of the pioneering work that you all have done over these years, especially unlike in, say, business and other areas. This has been changing so quickly that we're all learning together. And it's been just great to see the importance of how communications fits into everything that we're trying to do. And we've seen also this past year the failures of not having really good communications in various levels of the country, in various aspects of society, politics, and the real price that Americans and others have paid around the world for poor executive leadership and communications. So I'm just so glad to be here with all of you to think about these issues and with my esteemed co-panelists. And so I'm just going to show you a couple of quick things that may help us think about this issue. This blew up in the last couple of days. This is a strip from the Betty issue of 1997, where they talk about high school in 2021. And Betty's parents are saying to her that, oh, you're so lucky that you're being able to go to school at home. And when you look at this, they say they never have to carry books to school. They never have to worry about the weather. And Betty is saying that classes are about to begin. Now, what strikes me about this is how they were predicting that we would have flying cars and everything else, including this virtual school. But we did in fact get the virtual school, though we didn't get the flying cars yet. And it says their video monitor must remain uncovered at all times. That is a little too on the nose, I think, for a lot of us as we're thinking about this. I also think a lot about this because I have 17, about to turn 18-year-old twins. So they're in high school. They're sort of like Betty, and their kind of final year of high school has been ruined by being locked down in Manhattan with their parents. And that's something that I worry about. Will things get better? So at least they have a good first year of college. By the way, maybe to some people in the audience, they don't know who Betty is at all, considering where pop culture is these days. So if you don't know who Betty is or Archie, you may know them through that Riverdale television show, even if not from the comics. So let me show you a couple of other things that I'm thinking about. I had the opportunity to host some of your former students at the Metropolitan Museum when I worked there as the chief digital officer. And this is how field trips used to be, right? Here are students from Seattle coming all the way out to New York City, and we're getting to talk to them in person. It was a wonderful opportunity for me to talk and learn from them and share ideas. It was just I still remember that, and that's what one of the many things that we're missing these days in this virtual world. Here, this is a photo of the two of us in Times Square, taken a few years ago, and this is this opportunity to connect and share and talk and ask questions on the side. Like right now, you're doing all you can to make this as interactive as possible, as engaging as possible. But the chance, as I was walking through the museum with your students, to have them talk to me kind of to have a quiet conversation as we're walking, or to point out specific things. All of that has been sort of lost, and it's sort of unfair that that happened, but that is reality. I'm going to take you back, since I showed you a comic from 1997. I'll just go back here and take you to a website from 97. There was a time when this is what websites looked like. Your students wouldn't necessarily recognize this as a website. This is hand coded HTML from the South Asian Journalists Association in March 97. And we hosted an event with Phil Scheffler, the executive editor of 60 Minutes, the great pioneering TV show. And Hansen was our host, and introduced Phil Scheffler. And I thought some of you might enjoy seeing a photo of Hansen with hair.
I totally forgot about that. Oh my gosh, Sree. Thanks for all the
there's Hansen with hair. If some of you don't know that that was ever a possibility. But again, this is what we lost in all the ways in which we have changed. People sitting around and talking and listening and whispering to each other as they're at an event, and that's something that certainly we all wish was different. And I also wanted to talk about one more time that I had a chance to be with the team here at ComLead. Was for an event we called the Social Media One Night Stand in 2013, right in one of your big auditoriums. It was such a blast. I had such a good time. We used the hashtag Sreeaddle, and we were trending #1, as you can see there in the city. It was just a great day to talk. We did a 2.5-hour, 3-hour session on digital media tips and social media. And that was back in 2013. And if you look at the date, it's March 18th. So right on the anniversary of that. And the idea of, all of us being, that hall was completely full, and we got to talk and ask questions and have time before and after. All of that made a big difference in how that went down. You can see some video clips of it here. You can see how busy it was, and in fact they had to upload it in multiple videos, and they did that. So you all know where this is in the hub. And I wanted to show you a couple of moments that I'll never forget from this. An attendee named Margie decided that she didn't want to be distracted during the presentation, so she left her phone and her laptop in her car, and then came to the event without any note-taking material. So she took notes on the paper plates that were given out with the snacks. And then she immediately, after 3 hours of the session, then went and sat in her car and then transcribed everything, which is kind of unbelievable, but shows you, how much people want to be together, how much they want to learn. And even today, or right here on the screen, she's put, you can see here, bit.ly as one of the things I always encourage people to learn about. And the names on there, Mark Lucky and at Erica America, are both great journalists who really helped understand digital and social media. But this just juxtaposition of the physical and the digital here is amazing. So you can imagine how long it took her to transcribe things sitting in her car. And finally, what we were saying earlier, that we wish we had kind of prep music, on hold music as people are coming into the Zoom call. So I always have some music during my sessions before we start. So while everyone is gathering in the hub, I was playing some Guns N' Roses, and a student came up to me and said, "Hey, what music are you playing?" And I said, "Oh, it's Guns N' Roses." And this was a very young student. So I said, "It's old people's music," I said. And I meant, old people like me. And somebody tweeted that out. Chris Daniels, who's a television journalist, tweeted that out and said, "Funny, Sree was listening to Duff McKagan and Guns N' Roses as he prepped for his speech. He called it old people music." And then immediately Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses wrote, saying, "Who is this Sree?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I don't want to be caught in an alley, by dusk. So this was all part of the ways in which we got together, the way in which we learned, the way in which we shared information, the way in which we worked together. And all of that has kind of been taken out. When I was chief digital officer of Columbia, we were thinking about the future of education. And we used to say that it would take till 2025 before more than half the professors at Columbia would agree to teach a course fully online. Well, instead of that prediction of being those many years out, it turned out it was just 2020 in March, 2 days head start, and everybody was teaching online all over the world, and nobody was prepared. So, back to the prompt and the question of how do we make sure that in the work that we do, we are making sure that we have the leadership that we need, and putting together the various ways in which we do our work. So my company, Digimentors, creates events, virtual and hybrid events. We're just starting to work on graduation events. It feels like just the other day we were doing orientation. And this is one of the things that has driven us, our work. How do we make sure that we are recreating the best parts of the in-person experience and leaving aside the worst parts of the digital space? And that requires a lot of effort on behalf of the folks who come together. It requires effort on the part of the learners. The audience has as much work to do as do the speakers and the organizers of these events. I'm sure there's a robust chat going on. I'm not reading that now, and something is lost when I'm not reading and not participating in that, because the way you're able to do that. I think those chats are an integral part of it. When I teach, I use them, but you take your eyes away for just a couple of minutes and boom, it's all gone because it's all lost in that endless stream. So these are some of the things that we like to think about. And as we go forward, I would love to answer questions and make sure that we all continue to think about the virtual events. What have we learned that we can keep doing, and what are things that we can incorporate into a world when we go into hybrid education, when we go into hybrid events or in-person events? Where can we balance that out? And that's something that I have been thinking about for a long time and will be. And finally, just one more quick image for you. This is from one of the many events that we do. We did this 4-day event for UNDP, and one of the things we always say is we work very hard to work with our speakers to make sure they look good on camera. Now, as you all know, Justin Trudeau would look great on camera no matter what, but we did work with his team. And this is where, are there ways in which we can make sure that the technology that we have, it's accessible and easy to use and gives you equivalent or equal ways of communicating and sharing with everybody that you're trying to reach. And I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
That's great, Sree. Thanks very much for setting that up, and especially for that last example. I think, obviously we know that Zoom fatigue is real, so to think very conscientiously about how we design these events to make them useful and relevant to people as they join virtually, whether it's in education or in anything else, is really helpful. And we'll definitely get to that in the Q&A. So thanks for that, and thanks for the walk down memory lane.